Hello, good morning. Welcome to Gaming Insight Daily for Monday, August 25th, 2025. I'm Steve Saylor. This is your sometimes daily show of gaming news, accessibility news, or updates about my life. I have coffee in my Doom the Dark Ages mug today. Okay, added a little bit of a sweetener today to my coffee. I was like, I don't normally do that, but I decided to try it today, and it's okay. I think I might go still stick to my just straight milk. All right, so this weekend, I hope you had a good weekend, but for me, I was able to go to Toronto Fan Expo. I had a great time. Basically got to hang out with some friends and see some cool stuff, including getting to check out the Nintendo Switch 2 booth. And they had several games to be able to play, some of which I played at the Nintendo Switch 2 experience back in April, but some we have not seen before, including in today's video, Borderlands 4. That's right, I got to play at least 20 minutes of Borderlands 4, and we're gonna I get to actually talk about the accessibility and what I think of the game in and of itself. So I'm very excited to be able to talk about that, and I think I'm maybe the first person to be able to talk about the accessibility of this game. So we're just going to dive right in because I've got some footage. I apologize, it's sort of over my shoulder, but this is how they wanted us to be able to capture our footage. We couldn't have a direct feed, as it were. But yeah, so I wanted to take a look at the accessibility menu first, because there is an accessibility menu in Borderlands 4. Now, it's not to say that this is the first time that Borderlands series has had accessibility menu. I actually have here the look at Borderlands 3. I can show you. Let's see here. Here we go. So they did actually have some accessibility in Borderlands 3. Not necessarily a lot, but enough to kind of at least be worth talking about, or at least in comparing to what Borderlands 4 has. They obviously have an aim assist. You can do snap to target, weapons ADS. You can adjust camera bob. You can set toggle and crouch you can set sprint and crouch to toggle or hold. You can do mantle mantle with forward, basically, so that if you want to be able to hop over a thing, you can be able to just move forward and it'll automatically mantle for you without having to hit a sort of the jump button, as it were. You can also be able to adjust the visuals, basically the friendly reticle color, neutral reticle color, and hostile reticle color, so that way you can be able to know which what is it that you're aiming at, and they have that for obviously for color blindness reasons. So and then they have the ability to be able to have subtitles, closed captioning. You can adjust the subtitle and closed captioning size and the background opacity. So not a heck of a lot. However, when we jump over into Borderlands 4, let me go back here so I can be able to get to the accessibility menu. You can see that they actually did look into adding quite a few more options for those who are disabled. So first off, they actually expanded out their subtitle sort of offerings. They have obviously been able to use subtitles. You can adjust the subtitle size, and you can include having bold text. You can adjust the subtitle color. You can have a subtitle background with the subtitle opacity. And what I like as well is that they do give you a visual of what that looks like on the bottom. So there's a bit of a preview there. You can also add toggle speaker identity and also the speaker color. Then when you can jump into audio and visuals, yes, there is font scaling. Now, I wasn't able to confirm whether or not this will be in the actual version of the game on other consoles, or whether this is exclusive for the Switch 2, because there may be this font scaling might be on the Switch 2 only just because it's a smaller screen if you're playing in handheld mode. So it's possible that it may only be here, but because I've seen that it happens when some games have some settings and some games don't. But hopefully the final version on all versions of the game of Borderlands 4 will have the ability to be able to set at least the font scaling. And actually that is a marked improvement over the previous game, because I did always find that the font size was really small in the Borderlands series. So it looks as you can see, I've actually, let me go back just a bit, just kind of show you the okay, you can see the different size there when you look at sort of the default menu. This is for just the menu text, by the way. This is not necessarily for the in-game HUD. But let's see, if you select the font scaling, you'll be able to see the size get a little bit bigger, which is a little bit more readable, which I did appreciate, and actually made it a little bit more readable for me, even though I'm basically standing about a foot away from like essentially a 50-inch screen. Also, what they have for accessibility is you can have damage numbers. You can there's multiple different audio mixes that I found was actually interesting for those who are deaf and hard of hearing, that I think it was worth pointing out. I'll just read out basically what they have listed in the paragraph description, so you can be able to kind of know what's going on there. Mix presets, modify specific frequencies to help with various audio sensitivity, enhance important game elements, or create a more comfortable listening experience. Combine these settings with trim, volume, and audio preset settings to experience the game in a way that is most comfortable for you. They have bass reduction. You can reduce low frequencies that may trigger dizziness, vertigo, or motion sickness in sensitive players with vestibular disorders. Ear fatigue reduction reduces harsh frequencies that can cause listening fatigue during extended gaming sessions. I can never pronounce this correctly. Hypercaustic relief reduces mid and high frequencies that can sometimes cause pain or discomfort for players with sound sensitivity. Misphonia relief softens sounds that may trigger strong negative reactions, such as mouth noises, keyboard clicks, or other irritating sounds. I'm kind of curious as to kind of why they would have that there. They also have tinnitus relief, and also you can be able to notch basically all the audio above an 80 degrees in 80 hertz is what I would want when I meant to say. You can obviously be able to adjust. Oh, let me go back there. You can be able to adjust the color, the color presets for obviously for color blindness. They have a high contrast HUD, a high contrast reticle. You can obviously, the same as Borderlands 3, you can adjust the friendly reticle color, enemy reticle color, and neutral reticle color. Looks like they might have a few more color options than they did previously in Borderlands 3. But then again, I haven't really played a lot of Borderlands 3, so I can't say that for certain. So I do apologize if that's the case. All right, then you also have the gameplay. You can be able to adjust the map zoom speed, enable vibration, screen shake sensitivity. You can be able to set your sprint, crouch, and dash, crouch and sprint to toggle on or off. You can enable dash. You can disable camera head bob, grapple view, tilt, and also mantle with forward like they had in the previous games. Now, there is a few things that in the main settings that I wanted to be able to point out as well, that I want to show you. Yes, you can be able to remap controls on the Switch 2. I emphasize that because that is rare within a Switch 2 game, because normally it's usually just it's locked in and then that's it. And also I was a bit worried that essentially you wouldn't be able to remap on controller. Mouse and keyboard, yes, but on controller, not necessarily. But they do have different themes or schemes for different presets for both stick and driving preset to basically set to old school or southpaw or both. And then again, you can be able to adjust or you can be able to remap the controls. There was something also that I wanted to point out. That they do have a ton of options to be able to adjust the dead zone and the sensitivity of the thumbsticks, but also if I'm trying to be able to find where this is, because there was something that I wanted to motion control. Yeah, you could be able to do motion controls for here we go. You can do motion controls, so you can be able to use your Joy-Cons sort of like a gyro kind of controls as well, but I don't know if this has been confirmed or not. I assumed it probably has been, so I apologize if this seems like it's not like oh yeah, Steve, it's already old news. But they do have in here mouse controls. Now, we didn't get to try out the mouse controls using the Joy-Cons for now. If you know famously that basically Metroid Prime 4 will have mouse controls capability, where basically you get to kind of put your Joy-Con on the desk, and you'll be able to use the left shoulder button as your left mouse button and your right trigger as your right mouse button. But Borderlands 4 does have mouse controls, so I would be very curious to be able to hear if anyone is going to try Borderlands 4 with the mouse controls. Now, we kind of assume that potentially that this was going to have it because it is a FPS type game, but I'd be very curious to see how this plays out in a practical sense. I have not seen this in person yet. We were playing on a Pro controller in order to play this, so I couldn't be able to test it out fully, but I noticed that in there, and I was like, I wanted to be able to bring it out, so we may have some mouse controls on the Switch 2 for Borderlands 4. And then there's actually a ton more kind of other options available to be able to adjust. A lot more in regards to controls, gameplay, and then also, I guess, for audio as well. Now, there are some things that are definitely missing. Now, this could mean that this is just missing in the demo. This does not mean that this is not like this may not be the full the settings menu as it is in the final version of the game. It could be that this is just for the demo itself, because this was a demo of the game. We didn't play any story. We didn't jump into any aspect, like any actual like what the game is going to be like, other than this was basically just a combat arena. It was just to be able to try out all the different weapons, all the different controls, and see how the game plays in a combat situation. That's all it was. And actually, I can probably even just I'll jump right into the gameplay for you. Now, please forgive me for the sort of not really super great gameplay, but it's just I'm not that super great at these kind of games, especially in a demo setting where I'm trying everything out. So I do apologize, but essentially the gameplay, I did notice that there was quite a bit of frame drop in certain aspects of the game. I think you can kind of see that a little, like you definitely see that a little bit when the menus are loading. I can actually probably jump to that specific section, because when you jump into the game itself, as it's trying to load, I think there we go. You can kind of like this part right here. This is not sort of, that's not sort of my camera sort of pausing. That is definitely the frame dropping of the within the loading screen. So, but I did notice there was some frame dropping during sort of the main action of the gameplay. But I will say, if you played Borderlands before, it's very familiar it'd be very familiar to you. For me, it's been a minute since I played it, and also I never really got into the Borderlands series, so I was hoping that maybe there might have been something to be able to kind of help me get through a game with more accessibility. Also, yeah, by the way, there is no edge protection for when you're about to drop and fall, so you will drop and fall a lot, especially if you're on a cliff, and I did that, and that happened to me, which unfortunate. And in this demo, that happened to me, unfortunately, more than once. So there was no edge guard in that regard, in that sense. But also, yeah, like there is some sort of aim assist. I can definitely tell that there is some sort of aim assist, but it's not enough that I think is going to be worth for any blind or low vision players to be able to lock in and play. I was mostly just trying to figure out how to be able to just use the weapons. Now, again, this is just more due to the demo. I chose a character that I usually don't play, so I wanted to be able to try that out to see if maybe, hey, if I jumped into this for the first time, could I actually be able to play? And unfortunately, it just didn't work out super well for me. I got better, but it wasn't to where I've seen other games before, where there is a little bit more of a proper aim assist and also snap to target, which I would have hoped for in this. Again, this could be just for the demo purposes only, that may be added at launch. I don't know. But I will say that there are definitely some things that are 100% missing. And there's no navigational assist. There's no screen reader, unfortunately. I couldn't be able to test to see if the screen reader that was built into the Switch 2 is enabled during gameplay for this, but my guess is probably not, and that the screen reader wasn't touched for this, because this was being developed for multiple platforms, and if it was, then it probably would have had screen reader built into the game itself. Excuse me. So yeah, and essentially, I did find that the HUD itself was easier to read this time around than in previous games. I never really liked sort of the aesthetic style of the HUD or the UI for Borderlands. It kind of always felt very like when you after like when it felt very like Photoshop, like when you're just learning Photoshop for the first time and you learn how to be able to add like a black border around everything, or just kind of add like a bevel and emboss. That's kind of how some of the HUD feels in this, and I did wish that there was a little bit more of a neutral sort of like a more readable aesthetic to the HUD than they did in previous games. But it is, they do, I understand why they would have done this, because it's trying to be able to have the familiarity of Borderlands, but with the cell shading sort of aspect, but also keep it fresh for older players and also for new players. But I didn't really notice anything else. I kind of, I will admit, I was actually kind of struggling for a little bit. Once I kind of got used to certain weapons, I did start to get better. But as you can see, my aim is not necessarily super accurate. Now, granted, I'm not sort of playing in my own personal sort of setup, so that like this is, I am standing. I am also playing with a pro controller, which I don't usually play first-person shooters with the Nintendo Switch 2 Pro controller. But there are certain things I probably would have remapped to. I probably would have remapped L3 and R3 to the back paddles of the Switch 2 Pro controller, and I probably would have also maybe adjusted the sensitivity and maybe drop down the vibration of vibration settings, because in first-person shooters I usually keep vibration off just to kind of help with recoil for me, but in this case I wanted to test out to see if maybe there was a bit of an immersion or a bit of potential accessibility offering for within the haptic feedback, and unfortunately I didn't really notice either of that either. So will this game be a game for disabled players? I think for some, and I think that definitely they improved on the accessibility over over previous Borderlands, so for Borderlands 3, and you can tell that accessibility at least was a priority to a certain point. But as far as adding anything new or help or adding anything that that a lot of other games should have, like a screen reader or navigational assist, that I don't know. Like even taking a look at the in-game menus here for when you're looking at the sort of the vending machines, I kind of wish that there was a little bit more of a flatter interface than sort of like the kind of the tilted sort of parallax effect, which the Borderlands 4 or Borderlands series has known to do. So I don't know. I think if my overall thoughts, I'm interested to play. I want to be able to play, and I think I probably might actually try it on the Switch too, especially in handheld mode, because we didn't get a chance to play in handheld, just on docked mode. But it is something that I think is, it's worth trying out for yourself, but don't expect it to basically be a great game for accessibility. I think in a year, now in the year 2025, or actually, you know what? Let me actually use this analogy. If this was like 2020 or even 2021, when sort of accessibility was known, but not necessarily like really fully implemented, except for a few games, I think this would have been fine. I think that this amount of accessibility actually would have been great and actually probably would have stood out. But in 2025, unfortunately, with this kind of accessibility, this accessibility, even with the amount of options they have, we've kind of moved beyond just sort of, we've seen what other games can do, even in this first-person genre, that I think could be better for accessibility. So I think it could potentially be, it's because it is a legacy game, and they do have they are using sort of a legacy type sort of gameplay. They want to keep old-time fans interested in this, but hopefully attracting new players, and I think that they will, but when it comes to the core engine and the core gameplay of this, I don't think that this is going to sort of stand out as far as like a great accessible title. But I could be wrong. Again, this demo could just be, these settings could be just for this demo alone. Who knows what the final version will be like? There may be a few future editions that was just not available for this particular demo for Nintendo, for showing off for Fan Expo, but it's definitely something that I think I'll keep an eye out for when this game launches. So I would love to be able to kind of hear your thoughts about Borderlands 4. Are you interested in something? Is there something that I didn't cover that you wanted to ask that I can let you know about? Let me know in the comment section down below. That is going to be it for me today. Thank you so much for watching, and also check out this preview of Borderlands 4 for the Nintendo Switch 2. Thanks to Nintendo for inviting me out to be able to check it out at Fan Expo. Yeah, if you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the comment section down below. Otherwise, I'll see you all tomorrow. Take care. Bye-bye.